Hello everyone. I am here joined by Priyanshu, Manasvi, and Ananya, the three of whom worked with a group of children during the course of their semester to help them bridge learning gaps. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Would you guys like to introduce yourselves a bit?
I'm Anany Ranjan. I studied in University. I graduated in BSc Physics this year, and currently I'm working in an organization in Bangalore.
Hello, everyone. This is Priyanshu. I have also studied physics from Azim Premji University and I graduated this year. I come from Bihar and I have taught those children who are also from Bihar. And right now I'm working at an organization called Teach for India in Delhi.
Hello, I'm Manasvi. I'm also a physics graduate from Azim Premji University and currently I'm preparing for the exams.
Thank you everyone. First, I'd like to ask where did you work and who were the students that you worked with during your volunteer experience?
So when we started, we didn't think as it like a something like we are going to volunteer or something. We took it as like our personal project, as in like that we want to do it. Like I'm talking about very beginning when we had met those children. So nearby campus around 1.5 kilometer, there is a village. So I made their parents working in the farm field, and they were basically from Bihar. And after interacting with them, I realized that they have this challenge that they are not able to provide any kind of education to their children. Some of them were living here since last 2 years, and some of them were living here since 6 months or at least 6 months. So they were living with their family. That included their children also. So they were not getting any formal or informal kind of education there in the village, and there were some obvious reasons for that. Like they were mostly Hindi speaking, and they had enrolled their children in the government primary school in the village itself, but their medium of instruction was Kannada or English maybe. They were unaware of both of these languages, English and Kannada. So for these children, it was difficult to go in the school and learn anything there. Then I thought ki, okay, this we can do along with my friends, maybe whenever we get time, and then we can come and teach them. So initially this was the plan. So I think it was the March month, if I'm not wrong. So then along with Yansh, Manasvi, and Akshad, so we four of us started our first session, I think, and um, uh, we used to go there in the evening. I think in a week, 2-3 days initially we started doing. Then later, more number of friends joined us, and we tried to make it even kind of regular. So that we'll maybe talk about it. So this is how it started, basically.
I was wondering if one of you could give more information on or more details on the students and what sort of challenges that the students faced apart from language. They were obviously not able to access education because of the language barrier, but what other challenges did the students face?
Apart from this language barrier, one basic thing was the financial barrier, and like because people could not afford to send them to some schools where they can learn in English or maybe a bit of Hindi also. Other than that, the family also I not sure how much they could contribute in like learning in home as well, because parents they work in the field for the whole day, so there was no parental support in terms of teaching. And also there was a bit of regional divide was also playing also. There was one case where the small girl got hit by one of the guy from the village. Then they told us that it happens quite easily. There was this hostility as well. So I think these were some of the issues they were facing.
Whatever Manasvi said about this economical, financial constraint they were having, I talked to them. So everyone was earning around, between 10k to 15k, and in that 10k to 15k, they had to sustain the whole family, which included their kids, and everyone had around 2 to 3 kids, I think. I think one of parent had 4 kids also. So sustaining all the expenses was a problem. Food you have, and emergency you have, and then education was another challenge for them. So because of that, it was not very feasible for them to send their any private school. As Manasvi mentioned, that they were living in the village, which was a society, mostly people who were uh, from uh, Kannada speaking background, and culturally also they were very different. Then living in that society itself becomes a challenge, and for them it was not a different case. So many time I talk to their parents, what all you face like in terms of living in this society, and that definitely affects the children's also. I'm not just talking about the parents getting affected by the society. They said it's not like big problem or a threat to live in this society, but the problem is that they are secluded, they are confined into their spaces. They just go 7 o'clock in the field, they come for the lunch maybe, or they take their lunch with them, then they come in the evening. Sunday they have off, but there is no social time. In social time, I mean, is they can't, talk to the people living around them, and other way is not possible, because a village who speak a different language, they're also not able to talk to them, or maybe even if they know a little bit of Hindi, they don't have anything common to share with them, so that they can talk and share their life or share their problems. So the same thing with the students also, same thing with the children also. They have let's say 10, 12 or 15 numbers of children, their own group, which are from the same place, from Bihar. But apart from that, there are a lot of kids in the village, but they are also having this barrier of language, and not having any common things to talk about, or common things to share about, or maybe to play together. So uh, so in blocked in a, or maybe confined in their own homes and confined in their own space. For example, I was talking to them ki, why don't you make friends with this village people? It will be very easy for you in the school also, or maybe you can go play and all. They said that they don't talk to us, they hit us, they say something like maybe bad words. So it's like they were not able to generate that kind of relationship with the childrens in the village. So they were not having that imagination of a small 7, 8 or 10 years child living in a village and playing with the village kids. So that life they were not having. That was the case when they were in their own place in Bihar. They had a lot of friends. I remember several of the children saying that how many friends they have in their village, how much fun they have there, because they go to play, they do many things there. But there, they what they have in terms of entertainment is key. Before we joined, they had the school, they go school. For some of them go school regularly. I mean, that engage them, I think, for few hours. But after that, what life they have is ki they go to the farm field where their families work. They spend time there, they play with something there only, or they help their parents also in many cases. These were the challenge. I think it was affecting them negatively, at extent that they were not able to express many, I would say, the behaviors that we generally expect from the children.
Thank you there. I was also wondering, in terms of learning, what was the students' approach and what was your approach? So, how did the students who were essentially not able to learn that well in school, how did they approach the learning within this project?
So basically, we divided the cohort into two parts. One were small children, primary grades, and one were secondary grades, not secondary, middle schools, 6, 7, 8. For the smaller kids, Manasvi and Ranjit, Anany, and a few others taught them so they could answer better. For the middle class students, I taught them so I can take the question. Basically, they had foundational literacy and numeracy skills already in them. So we did not need to work from the scratch. So they knew the stuff, they knew alphabets, they knew how to phrase simple sentences in English, Hindi. They knew how to do divisions, multiplication, and all that. So we didn't have that much problem with them. Basic thing was that it didn't have practice from so long that they have went out of touch with everything. So basically, we did just revision and a few new things which I taught them. They grasped very easily. I did not have to work like too much with them. I could just tell them in Hindi and they would understand. Especially with 2-3 people, I only taught 4 middle school students, and all of them had amazing performances. And the only thing that they had problem with was language, especially English. They could not speak properly. They could not comprehend my words if I started talking in English. So that was the thing which affected them most, and that was just because they did not have necessary exposure to that language. But in that time, in 2 months, I saw that they progressed a lot. They were speaking little bits of English whenever I went to them. They could understand some of the story elements in their books. They could understand few lines of their poems. They could write answers to simple questions like who was the poet of this poem, who was this and that, like basic simple one-liner sentences they could write in that 2 months stretch. So in that part, I did not face that much of an issue. But for the smaller kids, Manasvi would be able to tell you the problems that he faced.
In the small kids, there were range of people with different at different levels. Some of them were not even familiar with the alphabets. Some of them were not even familiar with any mathematical operations, and some were a bit okay with mathematical operation, but not good with English. Some people knew alphabets in English and not in Hindi. Some knew in Hindi, not in. But overall, if I say the level in language was very problem. Out of five, let's say, out of five students, none of them knew how to write like a sentence or even how to read a word aloud. The student in higher grades, I mean third, fourth, they knew how to read alphabets, but they could not make up the word out of the alphabet. They could not recite what is written in a sentence or something like that. Mathematically, many of the kids were very good at mathematics. They just needed practice. So, especially I was working with two kids for mathematics, and one day I taught them addition with carry. Next day they solved 20 questions without any issue. The other day I taught them subtraction. They were able to do multiplication. Also, they were able to do division. They had some problem, but before that, mostly they were able to do. But then once I got little bit busy into this honors work, once I stopped going there for like 2 weeks, then Priyanshu told me that they are not able to do the things even they learned because they were lacking the practice. So I think they were able to catch the things very quickly, but then if there is no practice, they were having issues. But on language, we had one of the kids, he only knew A, B, C, D, that also in order. He didn't know anything other than that. He doesn't know how to write A, he doesn't know how to write B, he doesn't even know what is E called, or like how to pronounce E, F, G. Anything beyond E, he didn't know. And yeah, that's it. Basically, language was a big problem. In mathematics, they were able to cope.
Thank you, Priyanshu and Manasvi, for detailing the students' learning experience. Is there anything else you want to talk about, perhaps the different support that the students gave each other in the learning process as well?
Yeah, so in terms of support, the constraint was that only one child had books. None of them had books at all. So whenever we used to teach them, they used to rely on that one person for everything. So whenever I used to give a homework, they all used to sit together, do it together, learn from the same book. They used to copy from each other's note. So sometimes when they faced a problem, let's say in maths, I used to say them, okay, can you help them? And they actually helped each other out quite a lot. So also because we were understaffed and underpowered, undermanned a whole lot of time, we didn't have enough teachers. So we asked the bigger kids to teach the smaller kids, and they used to do that very lovingly. And I know like 2-3 people have been taught just by their elder friends. So in terms of help, they used to rely on each other a lot and like help each other a lot. So that is something we take away as the most positive thing we witnessed there. So there was no sense of like, okay, no, this is only for me, you go away. There was a camaraderie in them, and a lot of them followed through it. So that is one thing I saw. Also in fields, also I gave them a project about sundial, so they had to make a sundial in their fields, and that was a thing I gave them individually. But then they started brainstorming together, like how could we do this, not just I. And they used to give critiques on each other's design ideas, like, okay, this will fall away, this will do that and that. So because they used to stay together for the whole day, there was a sense of unity in them, and they used to teach each other, learn from each other, dialogue with each other. So that was something I could say that there was a positive element in present, definitely.
Add on to what Yanshu said, we often notice that if someone is missing in the class, let's say in particular day, I mean, they were aware that why this person is not able to join today's class, but at the same time, they were sensitive about it also that, oh, like he really couldn't join it, or let's say he had some work, or he went somewhere with the family because he had some important work. They understood the situation of each other. So I would say that your sense of unity that Priyanshu was talking, we actually observed at many times.
The students were also very supportive of each other, from what I can understand. How did you support their learning experience? Because for a lot of them, I think it was first learning experience after coming to Bangalore, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if you say that it was first maybe a formal kind of learning experience for them, I would say, yeah, definitely. They used to study at their homes. Their parents used to force them. Particularly, I think 2-3 parents were quite serious about their education. Maybe they would punish them to sit and study at home, but they didn't get the chance to get educated from someone from outside of their home or outside of that vicinity. It was first kind of experience for them. In terms of our approach, initially I think 1 or 2 week we try to gauge them as much as possible and see like which method works for them. And luckily we were education student. We were studying about those learning behaviors and all those education philosophies and this child psychology. So we had all those kind of theoretical understanding. Which was I think not very sufficient, but this aided us a lot, I would say. And at the same time we had support from our educators also, which like regularly we talked about like what to do with this particular kid and what to do with this particular challenge that I'm facing with one student. So all those sorts of strategies we had, but this is how we began. That initially I think 2 weeks. So we took only to understood like which student is at what level and which student need what kind of support. Then later we divided, as Priyanshu already talked about, we divided them in two groups because we realized that most of the students, most of the children were around like under 10 and maybe 1 or 2, 11. And then there were 4 students, I think, if I'm not wrong, 4 or 5 students, which were like those like seventh, eighth, sixth standard kind of childrens. So we divided in the two groups. Then bigger kids, Priyanshu was handling alone, and most of the time he handled alone. And then smaller kids, we were handling, me, Manasvi, and Akshat, and others also. I should mention Divya and Anusha also. So then we had this one thing that we had introduced, that it was not specific to the smaller children. It was for everyone. That when we go to take class there in their house, first thing we do is to we read maybe a good story to them, and then we try to interact with them and try to make them engage. So that was one thing. We used to take printouts from here only, and then we used to read there, and then later we used to form question based on that, and they used to respond. And we were amazed on very first day only that they were engaging in a very interesting manner. Ki everyone was coming with something whenever we were asking. Everyone has their own sort of analysis of the story. That one thing. And then for other thing, for the very young childrens, like we had 1 or 2 childrens which were like learning this English alphabet and counting from 1 to 10, or maybe tables from till 5. For those we tried the maybe I would say that old technique only, the practice method. So we gave them a lot of homework. You write this table 1 to 5 5 times, write this counting from opposite as well as from a normal 1 2 3 4 5, then from 10 9 8, like that, 100 99 98. So these kind of practice help them to remember the flow of the numbers and get familiar with the words. Then we used to ask random things from their homework only, so that we know that how much they are doing by themselves or they are copying it. Then we had like later we introduced this chart thing, where we gave them a chart kind of thing, where words were written alphabet, and then pictures were there, because the younger children were able to identify, let's say apple, let's say a cat, and maybe he or she doesn't know the spelling of it, but she was able to remember the picture. So maybe through picture she can learn. So these 3 4 techniques we tried, and Priyanshu had few of very I think interesting techniques. I think he will share more for the elder kids.
My main focus with them in English was that they could speak with some confidence. So I made them write their own, introduction, first in Hindi, then I taught them to write in English and perform it in front of me. My plan was for them to perform it in front of their parents, but I had at the time, it did not work out completely. So for English, I used to tell a story from their book, and I used to say I would tell them to read it with me, so I could correct their pronunciation, and I could tell them the meaning of each words. Then I used to give some TPR, total physical response. So basically use some gestures, so that they could understand the word without me exactly saying the meaning of it. So that was one technique I was using for them to learn some words, like I would say under, over, something like that, and they would just pick it up based on my gestures. So for English, I tried that method. Then for comprehension part, I told the poem, I asked like lots of questions relevant to their context, like, okay, what is the meaning of kindness to you, why should we be kind, and stuff like that. So they could understand that poetry is not just about reading and writing questions, and but also something that they could enjoy. So I tried with that. Also, I used to teach them some basic English phrases like, okay, have a good day, good morning, good evening, and when to use, so they could be fluent in conversations. Sometime I used to pretend that I'm from America, and I asked them, okay, I don't know Hindi, please help me out. How could I go around and be in this country? Tell me something about you, tell me something about this place you are in. So basically, I used to give them a practice so they would feel more confident in their English skills. For maths part, it was relatively much easier. They knew most of their stuff, and I just went in with lots of physical examples. I was teaching them area and perimeter, so I asked them, okay, go and measure the area and perimeter of their table and stuff like that. And lots of things. Maths was like a smooth sail compared to English, so in there I did not do much. For science, I took 1 or 2 lessons. There I just focused on the practical part, like, okay, do something, don't just learn, because they knew lot of stuff, but they did not know what is the significance, what is the actual purpose of doing that. So I showed them moon landing photos, taught them about solar systems and stuff, asked them what would they do if they go to Mars and stuff like that. So only try to expose them to the beauty of science. I did not give them much information there. And I asked, the final project was making a sundial in their field, but they completed it, but I had to go before, so I could not check if it was properly working or not. But they made 2 or 3 versions, sometimes for just measuring hours, one for just measuring minutes and stuff, but I did not check if it was working properly or not.
Thank you, Priyanshu. So, since we are running out of time, I'd like you all to summarize your experiences. What was your one big takeaway from this project?
Personally, even I learned a lot of things. We sent a mail to one of our professors saying that this kid has some issues, how to deal with it. Then later we learned that it's not the issue. It can be like it is. Sometimes people learn things at a different rate, and the teachers consider it as an issue. So, but actually it was not. So that's how I learned. I was this method of teaching. When I was learning that these people have different pace of learning. People have different methods of learning. Some people have different levels of teaching. And then apart from that, even we learned that how teaching is a complex thing itself. That someone is not coming to class because they have to go to farm till 6 o'clock in the day, and that affects her teaching, her studies. So that's how whatever we learned in the classroom, in the education manner, I was able to learn that. I was able to see them actually in the field, and I think that was one of the takeaway for me as of my learning. But other than that, if I say what the kids what was the takeaway I would say about the kids, I think as I mentioned before also, because they didn't have enough luxuries and what do you call resources to learn. They knew the value of each and every penny, each and every pen, notebook, and everything. So they were eager to learn even when they didn't have resources. Sometimes people used to fight that they will go to class and all that. So that's one of the takeaways for me. Then.
So the most important thing for me, as especially, was that I found out that teaching is something I enjoy a lot. So that was the one takeaway I took from there. That is the most fun and most exhilarating part that I have saw in my life. That teaching is such a beautiful thing. I remember each day after going from their home, I had a big smile in my face. I like when I'm going to come back again. This was exactly what I was thinking always. When I'm going to come again and have the same experience again. And I thank those kids, because it would not have been possible had they not been interested in studying and not been interested with talking to me and being open with me. And the last date, I remember I was crying secretly that how will I ever feel the same emotions again, because that was something so divine, so pure, that it's just hard to put it in words. So that was the most major takeaway. The most important thing for me was that teaching is something which has so much meaning, so much so much zeal in it, and that's something I could do with something that I could take away for my rest of my life. That was the thing. Yeah. Also, the kids were, if you are publishing this, please write that the kids are lovely. They are so good. Please, it was only due to them. We could not have done this without them. They were the main reason that we could even go 1 day, 2 day, and 3 days. they were the strong pillars of support for us. We thought we were teaching them, but actually we ended up learning a lot from them also. So I think that was the most beautiful relationship I have ever been in.
For me, uh, I will say, yeah, I like the being around the children and all. For me, to be very honest, what I learned for myself or from this, whole teaching process or whole, I would say the teaching and learning process. So when I when I first time I met them, I was the individual person. I had no idea about their problems. I had no idea about what their life is like and what their life is, everyday life is. Then I took this challenge. Then the moment you think about it, then you have this thing in your mind that next question comes ki, then how? You are already a student and you are going to teach, let's say, some 10 number of students. Then how will you pull it off? But then again, since you have taken this responsibility, you can't go back. Then I started, and I would like to jump like where it is now and where we left it. Let's say that would be a good thing to say. So end of this whole thing, when we were living, I realized this thing ki, no matter, like, people think generally before starting ki we need x number of people, we need this much people, then only we can do something like this. We need resources and all. But I feel starting is the most important thing. The way you start, the way, the conviction that you have while starting, okay, I have to do it, there is no other way to not do it. I think everything came to me. Like, I had never expected my friends will support me this much or support these children this much. But they all came together, and they just did not come together, they did it as their something. They have their own. So I never felt that they are doing just because, you know uh, just because it is good thing to do. They did it because I think they loved it and they liked it and they did it for a purpose. So all I want to say is ki, to start anything, you have to do it. You have to take that step with that belief and this positive attitude ki, okay, we'll do this and I can also do this. So one single person can start something like this, and he will end up getting support from many like-minded people. So that one takeaway I feel, I will take it for my rest of life. If I start anything, I know that previously I have done something and people have supported me. One more thing I would say, you asked me one thing, but I think that was one more thing. I became really sensitive about people who are living in such conditions. So it's not like earlier I was not sensitive or something, but when you put your fit in their shoes, you realize the depth and breadth of the problem. And then you not only adjust yourself, you be like that. You know that they can't afford chai, so you will, even they offer, you know that okay, fine, for this chai they have to buy milk, they have to buy sugar, and then they will prepare. So that is not required. Then you say that okay, I don't drink chai, I have allergy with sugar. So it's not like I'm not accepting their hospitality. I'm just trying to be with like them, the way they are. They don't drink chai every day, but they are making for us. So that realization you comes when you live their life the way they are living.
Thank you, Ananya, and thank you all three of you for your incredible insights. It seems like not only were the students each other's study buddies and you were the student study buddies, but it feels like even the students uh, were an integral part in your learning process as well. So it was an all-round learning experience. I definitely learned a lot talking to the three of you, and I definitely learned a lot talking to the three of you, and thank you very much for joining me today.